So, hello guys, welcome back to the complete Python series. In this video, we are going to see about classes and objects in Python. Before moving further, let us understand about the basics of classes and objects. Classes and objects are the main properties of object-oriented programming. We can define class as a collection of objects. Class is nothing but a logical entity that has some specific attributes and methods. We can also say that class is a blueprint of an object. That is, if a person is an object, class will have all the information about the structure and behavior of the person. Now let us see about the objects in Python. Object is nothing but a simple entity which possesses some property or a behavior. Everything in Python is an object, and almost everything has an attributes and methods. We use these classes and object in order to reduce the size of code and use it whenever it is needed. Now let us take an example to understand about the classes and object. So in this diagram you can see that we are having a phone, and we know that there are some properties on the basis which we buy a phone. So the properties of smartphone are RAM, price, memory and processor. So we can create a class named smartphone, and in that we can use four properties, that is RAM, price, memory and processor. So this class is nothing but a blueprint of an object, and then we can create object of this smartphone class. So the objects of this smartphone class are nothing but the different models of smartphones available in market. So this was one of the example to understand classes and object. So now let us understand how to create a class. To create a class, we need to just write class keyword followed by class name. So I will write class name as smartphone. Then in this class you can declare all the variables and functions of a class. But in Python, to initialize some variables we use a special function. That function is known as constructor. So basically constructor is nothing but a special function which is used to initialize the variables in class. In Python we have an inbuilt method init which is used as a constructor. So let us write init method. This init method is a constructor. One thing to remember is that in all the functions of a class we need to pass a parameter named self. This self parameter holds the current reference to an object, and after that we can pass all the parameters inside the constructor. Now I will pass some few parameters in it. So to initialize we need to write self.processor equal to processor. It means that the value processor which we are passing inside the constructor will be assigned to the processor variable of the current object. Similarly, we can initialize other values too. So let me quickly initialize it. Now we have initialized all the values in the constructor. Now let us quickly write a code to display all the values of this class. Now I have written a display function which takes self as an argument and prints all the parameters of the class. Now let us see how to create object of a class. To create object of a class, we need to write object name equal to the class name. So let me create object note7 and initialize it to smartphone class. Now this will create object of smartphone class, but we need to pass few parameters during creating an object. that is processor, RAM, memory and price. So let us quickly pass it. Now you can see that I have passed few parameters during creating an object. So these parameters will be passed to the constructor, and this constructor will initialize all these values to the current object. So now let us call this display function. To call this display function, we need to use name of object dot function name. You need to remember that to call any function inside a class, we need to use object name dot function name, and we don't need to call constructor. This is because as soon as the object is created, Python will by default call constructor in background. Now let us run this code. You can see that we have successfully printed all the values of the class. Now let us see how to access a particular element of a class. So to access a particular element of class, we need to write object name dot variable name. So let me access here the memory variable. Now let us run the code. You can see that we have successfully accessed the memory variable from the class. These were some basic concepts of classes and objects. So in upcoming video, we will see some more concepts regarding this object-oriented programming. Thank you.